morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. And welcome to this week's live training. Again, just to check the technology before we kick off. If you can see, hear us okay, just give us a hello in the chat box. Let us know that the sound and the visuals are working okay.
Hi, Michelle. Hi, Nick.
Dive in.
Hi, Andy. Hi, Tom. Hi, John. Hi, good afternoon, Laura. Sorry about that. Hi, John. Hi, Michelle. Manuel. Good morning, Manuel. Hi, Perry. And of course, good afternoon, Mr. Merrick, or the legendary Mike Merrick.
Again, if you're just coming in, just give us a. If you want to check the sound and visuals before we start. Should be able to see and hear us. If you can, just give us a hello in the chat box. Let us know it's all working. We're going to get started in about 30 seconds or so. Just the last few people coming in now. Again, just coming in, just give us a hello in the chat box. If you can see and hear us, let us know that the tech is working okay. Awesome.
Hi, Tom. Hi, Cavi.
Awesome. Perfect. So, hello and welcome. Get the date. Date is 20th of January, 2022. Welcome to this week's training where we're going to, be doing one of our case study interviews where we've got Mike Merrick, and those of you who've been around for a while will know Mike well. I've interviewed him a few times. Obviously, he helps with the training as well. The reason why we wanted to get him on this time around is because, I think Mike, fair to say, since you've been working with us, sorry, how long have you been working with us now? 4 or 5 years?
4.5 years.
4.5 years. So one of our longest serving clients, one of our most successful clients. I think over that 4.5 year period, you've had lots of different breakthroughs along the way. Like, it's been quite a journey. There's been, there's been ups and there's been downs, but there's been, we were speaking yesterday, I think it was, about not just how you transformed your business, but how you transformed yourself. In terms of mindset, in terms of behavior, in terms of attitudes towards business, attitudes towards everything, really, attitudes towards life even. So I wanted to do an interview just to put, not to look at the whole journey, but just to put a more of a magnifying glass on the previous 12 months and I guess the next 12 months going forward, because I think, one of the things that, we spoke about is one of your ambitions was to turn your, what was normal, what used to be a normal revenue year for you into a revenue month, which I think is a really great ambition. And, to see the journey that you've been on, I think, we done a breakthrough year interview back in the last year with, I think it was you, Don, and was it Dan on the same one as you?
Yeah.
And yeah, just hearing some of your revenue numbers, I think, the one that stuck out to me was your profit. Actually, I think you said you've increased your profit by 900% over the past 12 months. Which is obviously, really, really impressive. So I just wanted to sort of dig in, put a magnifying glass on what you've done, what's been the main changes. So that's what we're going to be doing today. As we go along, again, this is for you guys. As you know, Mark's a really, smart guy, really nice guy, really smart businessman. Any questions that you have, and you should have lots of questions, just post them in the chat box, and then we'll pass them to Mike. This is your opportunity to take as much value from Terry. You're not on mute. Terry, you're not on mute.
Yes, now.
This is your opportunity to suck as much sort of information you can from one of our top performing clients. See what's working for him, what hasn't. So yeah, make sure you use the chat box. So I want to check in. Does that all make sense? Give me a yes or no in the chat box to make sure you're all listening. Awesome. Perfect, good stuff. So, Mark, I know I just said I wanted to focus on this past 12 months, but for those who this is the first time hearing from you, or just or people that haven't watched your previous interviews or don't remember, I want to first sort of ask you about some of the, I guess, foundational changes that you made right in the early stages, because when you joined the program, you was an experienced recruiter. You are an experienced recruiter. You had an established business in a sense.
Yeah.
But one of the things you did when you joined is you almost knocked down what you had and started from scratch. So it's almost like in this 4.5 years, it's a completely brand new business that went from not zero revenue, because obviously you had the sort of momentum from your previous business or your previous I don't know the right word for this, how your business previously looked.
Yeah.
But you went into a new market, new clients, new way of marketing, new way of selling, new way of pretty much doing everything, and so it's been a sort of 4.5 year journey to here. So just give us a brief overview of what your business looked like before you joined the program. Some of the things that you were doing, some of the habits that you'd gotten into, and then I want to look at some of the foundational changes that you made.
Okay. Just a very quick background. I mean, historically, I'd recruited in financial services. And up until 2008, 2009, that had been a tremendous place to be. I worked with maybe 2 or 3 clients, and business was easy. Business was great. I didn't really have to do any marketing. Market was buoyant. And then the financial crash happened. And in 12 months, I lost probably 80% of my revenue, which was really painful at the time, as you can imagine. Then for probably 2 or 3 years, I basically did anything for anybody who'd pay me to do anything across any sector. I was chasing ads that were placed on LinkedIn. I was chasing jobs that I'd heard about that were advertised. I was basically scratching around without any real plan, any real direction, just literally just to get by. And when I first started working with you guys, one of the things that I did, what you told me to do, was, I think the common sort of thing, as an independent business owner, you can't be all things to all people, and you have to really build a business focused in a particular niche. And I'd done some work, not a large amount, a little bit of work across the food sector. And I sat down one evening with a pad and just looked in terms of, okay, financial services, it was still in the doldrums because I could have easily gone back to that. It was a market that, I guess a sector that I'd fallen out of love with. The food sector at the time seemed to be growing. And I thought, okay, that's where I'm going to go. And so I started, I think if I look back at the time on LinkedIn, I had something like 1,500 connections, and there were probably about 10 of those connections in the food sector. So it was literally starting from ground zero. And so basically, and historically, I'd never done any real business development or marketing. I didn't have a marketing plan. I didn't have a marketing strategy. So when you guys said, this is what I need you to do, I thought, well, I don't know any better. And it was a case of almost like, take my brains out and trust you, because, you tell me, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this LinkedIn process, put together an ebook, make this offer, do your 10 before 10 calls. And within 3-4 months, we were starting to see business coming through. And I'm thinking, actually, this works. And so we continue to do that. But we've gone from doing hardly anything in a market to last year, having a really good year in a marketplace where 5 years ago I hadn't done any business.
Yeah. So I think, over that time, like when I think back and, I remember you coming to the first event that you came to. We had an event called Market Domination X, which was really about, how to go from unknown to dominating and becoming the most recognized recruiter in your field. And I remember talking to you at the bar at the time, and yeah, like you said, you had no real direction, no real niche that you was working in, and now you've sort of, I think it's fair to say that your firm is probably one of the most recognized in your sector, in terms of clients that know about you, know of you. You're probably one of the most expensive firms in your sector as well in terms of the fee you're able to charge. You do 100% retained as well. I guess like my question is like, what are some of the fundamental changes that you made or decisions that you made right at early stage to structure your business in the way that led you to where you are now? What are some of the things if you could sort of look back at that time and I guess fair question, if you could speak to somebody else who was in that exact same position you were in and they want to be where you are in 4 years' time, what are some of the fundamental changes, decisions they need to make about the way they structure their business and the way they offer and sell their services? What if you could sort of summarize top 3-4 things?
Yeah, I think the one is to choose a sector and stick to it. And the more you can niche down into a sector, I think Terry says that the narrower your niche, the broader your appeal. I think if you can establish yourself in a niche sector, I think that's absolutely fundamental and key. The other thing is to have a marketing plan, which is basically a series of activities that you need to be, you break it down into what you need to be doing every day. And we've talked about this before, is what are the small daily activities you need to do every day, day in, day out, and do them consistently. Not do the 10 before 10 tomorrow and then think, I'll do it again on Tuesday. Doing small activities on a regular and consistent basis. So niche player, small activities on a regular and consistent basis, and really have the belief in your ability to do what you say you can do. And and then just work, have a plan and work the plan.
Yeah. So Mike, one of the things that we say to everybody, and everybody that's known this for any length of time, we constantly go on about having a niche, and the narrower your niche, the broader your appeal, and there's riches and niches and all that stuff. But what we're aware of is that most new clients, when they join us, we say that to them, there's this element of reluctance to have a niche, because there's this fear of missing out. But if I have a niche, there's all that other business that I could get. And what do you say to people like that, Mike?
I think as an independent business owner, you cannot be all things to all people. If you're working in a particular sector, then it doesn't really matter what that sector is. You can, by following, what we do here, is establish yourself as the go-to person in that particular sector. And if you're trying to do that across 3 or 4 different sectors, it's never going to work. If people see your LinkedIn posts talking about, post talking about food ingredients, and the next week there's a post talking about financial services, and the week after a post talking about something else, it doesn't convey the right message. If your posts and all of your activity is consistently focused on one particular area, that's what people become to see. That's what people will see you as.
And from your point of view, did you find that difficult, then having that specific niche?
No, not at all. I think I'd made that commitment. Okay, this is where I'm going to work. This is where I'm going to build my business. Anything else is superfluous to that. And I remember we were on a call mid part of last year, and I'd been approached by an old financial services client of mine, and they wanted me to recruit on a project which I could have easily done in the financial services sector. They were happy that I'd always worked on a retained basis with them, and after a bit of soul searching, I said no, for several reasons. One, it served no purpose to the business that I'm building now. Yes, it would have given me revenue. And again, working in a niche, I think there's so many spin-offs. You can speak to a candidate for a particular role who's not interested in that role, but that candidate can become a client. You can speak to a candidate who's for a particular role who might know somebody else in his business who is the hiring manager that he could introduce you to. But if you're working in a sector there was going to be no benefit in me doing that. So
sorry, Mike. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, see, it's having that clarity and making that decision and sticking to it.
Yeah, and I remember that particular opportunity you had, because it could have been a lot of money, but as tempted as it was, you did decline it. So yeah, that's a really good point. Just to be clear for everybody else listening to this call, please feel free to ask any questions about anything as we're going along. We are going to come to you as well, but as Mike shares something with you, you got any questions about it, please feel free. Thomas, we're going to come to you next. Tom's got a question for you. Right.
Yeah,
Hi, Tom.
Mike. Hi, Terry. Hi, guys and ladies. Mike, I'm interested in this about specialization because it's not something we do. It's something I'm interested in maybe gravitating towards. But you got out of financial services for this. You lost 80% of your business in 2008, 2009. I lost 100% of mine. And I now sleep better at nighttime because we're diversified. And whenever one leg of the stool is cut off, we have a 5 or 6 legged stool, and it gives us benefits in terms of what I think is the durability of our business and basically the strength of the company and the longevity of the company is been I think guaranteed by the fact that we don't have all our colors pinned to the one mast. I'm very interested in getting into private equity and venture capital at the moment. We're doing quite a bit of work with a client. We're nailing everything we touch on it. And I think we're capable of bringing something. But as you know, that's a sector. When it's up, it's magnificent. And when it's down, it tends to be very depressed. So what would your advice, like, because you got into food and food is very stable, but to getting into a sector where it can be quite cyclical and pinning all your colors to the mast, is that something in your experience that you think, you know, if I wasn't in such a stable industry, look, because the biggest recession comes, people got to eat.
Yeah.
And they're probably going to eat more because we dedicate ourselves to putting on some weight and drinking a good bit of alcohol and maybe having a few ciggies as well in the evening. So it's a lovely sector to be in terms of the stability of it, and pharmaceutical as well. But not everyone is.
No, I think you're right. And I think particularly throughout the pandemic, I am just so grateful that that's a sector that I've been working in. I'm a solo recruiter. There's just me in the business. I think if you've got a team, you can work across several niches, because each consultant can then specialize. And I think you can either take a view of, you can go down a route of specializing in a particular sector or a particular discipline. There are people I know who will recruit on supply chain and that's all they do. Well, that's a discipline that transcends several different sectors, but they're experts in supply chain. I'm an expert in predominantly in B2B food ingredients, but I will recruit several different disciplines across that particular sector. So I think if you're working in a particular sector, it allows you to establish yourself in that sector. And even in downturns and recessions, businesses still need, there's almost an argument to say that business need better people when there's a downturn.
Yeah, and just to add to that as well, if you think of the big firms, Tom, like Korn Ferry and Hybrid and so on, their consultants, Korn Ferry and all those big search firms, they operate in every sector, but each consultant within those businesses are specialists for a particular niche or discipline. So yes, as Mike rightly says, if you've got a team, and I know you have, Tom, different members of your team can specialize in different areas. And again, with Michelle and the other guys here and Inez that have got teams, they do very much the same thing. I'm going to quickly just go around the room and just get some feedback from a few guys. I'm going to come to you, Callum, and to you, Cavi and Inez. I want your feedback and also any questions. To you first of all, Callum.
Literally just came in. I'm not sure how much.
Yeah, sorry, Terry. I've joined about a minute ago, so.
Sorry, buddy. Didn't realise yet.
No,
okay.
My apologies. I'm late.
Let me come to you, Cavi and Inez.
Hi there. Hi, everyone.
Hiya.
Some really nice points, actually, there, Mike, and your question, Tom, was pretty on point for what I was thinking. I'm in a similar position, I guess, to you, Mike. It's just me, but I've hired a few resources. but I want them to do my sector. It's the question of discipline or sector that I was thinking about. I run my business across cybersecurity. We've just picked up a lot of work in cloud, which is really related. So there's lots of the managers, well, the C-suite managers will all be the same, but the candidates will be quite different. So they may or may not know each other. The fact it's a huge amount of business that we've picked up means that I'm chasing it, but I'm feeling as though we're moving a little bit away from what my core business is. And I picked up quite a lot of that business. I think I said to you earlier, Terry, that it's quite a decent amount. I don't know if I want to continue doing this despite the volume of business it's going to be, just because it's dragging me a little bit away. But now I'm a bit reluctant about turning it down.
So just so I understand, where's your reluctance? Because I know you picked up a big, £100,000 worth of business in the last few days or so.
Yeah.
Is that the business that this part of you is a little bit reluctant about doing?
Well, this is it. So everything that's happening at the moment with working from home is all around digital transformation, and lots of things that have been affected is cybersecurity and cloud and emerging technologies. So this is what I follow. Most of what I've done in that is cybersecurity. The cloud part of it is very related because everything uses the cloud. So lots of the leaders have to have people who understand cloud and cybersecurity. So we've picked up all of this work in cloud, but some of the people know people in cyber, some of them are just only cloud, who reports to a cloud, So unless we're building that niche as well, we're going to have two pillars when I'm the only salesperson. So it might just stretch me a little bit too much. So that's just my concern about how I grow from here after delivering this. Or do I just deliver it and then stop?
Well, first thing I'd say to you is, deliver on, if you're getting, commitment up front, deliver on that. And this is for everybody.
Sure.
Whenever some of our clients have tried to have more than one niche, and all you're doing is dividing your time. If you say I'm going to have two niches, and some of our clients have done that, but you're going to have to spend 50% of your time on two different niches. So I say, first of all, for sure, deliver on these assignments that you got, but get crystal clear. And if you remember in the program, we ask you to detail your ideal client. That should be your guiding force. This is our ideal client. These are the type of clients that we work with, and there's literally no deviation from that. And it sounds that maybe you're not crystal clear about that at the moment. Hope that helps.
Yeah, that's useful. I think I was clear on that, but I sent a 9-word email. Got a great response, and it was somebody gave me his colleague. So no, that's good advice. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, mate. Thanks for that, Cavi. Can we come to Inez, and then we're going to come to Prince after Inez, and then back. I'm going to ask a few more questions for you, Mike. Good morning. Good afternoon, Inez. Sorry.
Yeah, evening almost. Evening. I did come in a little bit late, so I don't know.
Oh, did you?
Was.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'll be able to answer, but was there a particular question?
Yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts and feedback and see if you had any questions for Mike.
So I'm guessing we're talking about branches and focusing on particular sectors and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're a little bit different. It might be interesting to tell us that our niche is more geographical. So our company name is JobNet Africa. So we mediate jobs in Africa. But we have got sucked into one or two branches that we've really started to become very good in, and obviously have a better network in as well. And it is so much easier because you have your database and your pipeline lined up. It's much easier and faster to place. So definitely focus. But we twisted it a little bit by doing a geographical niche.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And again, in terms of one of the advantages with niches is the message that you're sending out. So you can position yourself as the expert in Africa for executives. Mike can position himself as the expert in the food sector. Cavi could either be cloud technology or cybersecurity. But it's one of the other advantages that we haven't touched on. a hiring manager will pay, or not just a hiring man, anybody will pay more for an expert. We all want to work with the experts. And if you can position yourself as the expert, there's a lot less resistance to the price. And Drew touched on this. Mike's one of the most expensive recruiters in his market. You know, Mike's going in and talking to everybody about 33%. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike. Would you do anything? Do you do anything below 30%?
It depends. For a one-off vacancy, no. I've just agreed 27.5% with a client on the basis that there's potentially 12 vacancies there throughout the course of this year.
Right. So is 27.5 your lowest?
I'd go to 25, but there'd have to be exceptional circumstances for me to do so. But it's my starting point is 33.
Right. So just be aware of that. But you can only do that if you're the expert. Yeah, so thanks for that, Mike. Prince, just going to come to you very quickly. Tom says you're a hero, Mike.
Thanks, Tom. Love you, mate.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, just it's been really, really great. I think narrowing my niche has helped a lot on, on two fronts. One being the prospecting, so actually reaching out to potential clients, and like as Terry said, splitting my time. And now that's more narrow. I'm only in one niche. It really saves time, and I'm reaching out to everyone that I should be reaching out to. And then secondly is during the triage and sales calls. I felt that prior to narrowing my niche, if I would, let's say, be speaking to someone who works in the legal sector, I'd have to take 2 or 3 days to prepare myself to know how to handle myself in the call when speaking to this kind of person. Whereas now I only need 5-10 minutes to prepare, look at their company website, look at what they do and all that kind of stuff, and made it a lot easier, and I feel more comfortable speaking to these kind of people. So it's been really great narrowing my niche. So yeah, thanks everyone.
Yeah, that's a good point.
One of the other things is I also think, I'll give you an example. We're recruiting for a chief commercial officer based in the Netherlands for a client who's based in the UK, and they're just expanding their international business. The candidates that we've shortlisted are all first level connections, all of who I've spoken to previously. And because it's a marketplace that we're aiming to dominate, the time from taking the brief to shortlist was 3 weeks, because I knew all of the candidates. So getting hold of them was easy. So that's another advantage. You can cut down your delivery time significantly. And if you're cutting down your delivery time significantly, you're increasing your cash flow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, good point. But, yes, absolutely. So, Mike, I remember having a session with you, and you said to me, one of my goals is to what I built when I first met you in a year, I want to now do in a month. 2 questions around that, Mike. First question is, when was that? And the second question is, why was that?
I think it was coming out of 2020, which I think for everybody had been an interesting year. And I think anybody who got through 2020 and still had a business, regardless of what that business looked like, it had been incredibly successful. We'd had a really good quarter at the end of 2020, and at the end, in sort of Christmas and New Year, I'm saying, okay, what's 2021 going to look like, and what would a good year look like? And I said, well, you can increase your turnover by 10%, and that's good. And I thought, no, I needed something. I needed a bigger challenge. I needed to make that quantum leap to say, okay, I've spent 3.5-4 years working with you guys. I've put lots of different systems and processes in place, and it's worked. How do I then make that leap? And it came around from, how would I know that I got to a point where everything that you guys say has worked? And I thought, okay, and I look back at my revenue where I was back in 2017. I thought, okay, I'm going to get to a point before the end of this year where one of those months I'm going to at least invoice what I invoiced in 1 month, what I invoiced in 1 year. It nearly happened in September, didn't, and I was really pissed off. And then it happened in November. In November, I invoiced more in November than I'd invoiced in the whole of 2017.
I just want to point out for context as well, like when we first met you, you were the only fee earner in the business. Since then, you have outsourcers, you have people that support you, but you're still the only fee earner in the business. So this isn't you doing this with, you know, hiring more fee earners. It's literally you being the sole salesperson in the business.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've built a team of, you know, an outsourced team of researchers. Tail end of last year, I've got a freelance consultant who's now managing some of the work that we've got coming in, just because I can't do everything. And you know, outsource people doing various parts of the marketing process. Yeah, but fee earning is just down to me. Yeah.
Awesome. So one of the transformations that you know, it wasn't over the last 12 months, it was a bit before then, but one of the big transformations that I think has been responsible for your success throughout, you know, this journey is you got to a point where you know, again, correct me if I'm wrong here, like you started to fall in love with the business development side over the delivery. Like you started to love marketing, loving the process of winning a client, loving you know, you started to love that whole part of the business, which most recruiters don't like. Is that something you would agree with?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that stems to how we've raised our standards in the business in terms of what level are we marketing to and who we're marketing to. So the conversations that I'm having with people tend to not to be initially about recruitment. It tends to be about the challenges in the industry, the challenges their business is facing. What are their strategic plans for the next 3 to 5 years? What is that going to drive out in terms of leadership requirements? And those sort of, for me, I'm just really enjoying the quality of those conversations. And, you know, we're often speaking to people at board level or people who are founders of businesses who are growing. And I think, and the other thing is the advantage of working in niche. When you're speaking to people, they're giving you insights into their business, insights into the industry. So you're almost educating yourself. So the next time you get on a call with somebody else, you're armed with a bit more knowledge about their business and the industry in which we're working in. And you don't get that if you're working across different sectors. You don't get those really key industry insights, which to me are so valuable.
Mm. So just on that, like, you know, if we look at the last 12 months or so, like what are the, and again, maybe go back a bit further if you have to, but what are like the sort of the top 3 or 4 changes that you made to your business development, the way you marketed and promoted your business that have had an impact on you now turning, you know, what used to be a revenue year into a revenue month? What are the sort of big changes you made, if any?
Yeah, I think, I mean, numerous changes. I mean, one, there was making that conscious decision at the end of 2020, this is what's going to happen in 2021. Just making that decision, it became non-negotiable. By the end of 2021, me as a business will have achieved this. So it was firstly making that decision, and it was then okay, if that's going to happen, what do we need to do? Well, we can either, you know, increase our marketing activity by 300%, which is probably wasn't doable, or we can get better and smarter about our marketing activity. And one of the things that I spent some time looking at the end of 2020 was, okay, what are the signals, what are the triggers that cause a business to have the need to hire? And I asked myself the question, I said, well, I don't know. Because if you look at, you know, you're reaching out in your 10 before 10s in your chats, you don't know if those people are going to have a need. You speak to enough people and some people will. But what I started to look at, and I asked myself the question, I kept asking myself the question until I got an answer. And one of the answers was, and it might not be the definitive answer, was if a company is receiving an inward investment of whether it's 50 million, 500 million or whatever, is that an indicator that they could have the potential need to hire in the future? I thought, well, it's not guaranteed, but maybe it's a good indicator. So then I asked myself the question, okay, if that's an indicator as to companies having the need to hire, where do I access that data from? So we researched, where is that data available? And we came across several different sources, investigated each of those and decided on one source that gives us access to companies that have received inward funding. And then I started to dig a little bit deeper in terms of, okay, if a company's received inward funding, that might mean they have a need to recruit. Might not, but it might. I think it enhances that possibility. The question I asked myself then is, okay, where have they received the inward funding from? And if the company that's giving them inward funding is taking, say, a majority shareholding in the business, is the investor also a potential customer? The short answer is, well, I don't know, but potentially yes. So we tried and tested various different sort of marketing approaches until we came up, to where we are now, where we've got a very clear view. So we've got, I think there are three sort of core pillars from a marketing point of view into where we're marketing into. One is into historically what the food ingredients client base would have been, which was typically multinational corporations operating globally, which we're still doing. So that's one pillar of our marketing. The other is to companies that are receiving inward investment, which is a second pillar. And the other pillar is to the investors, the private equity companies, the venture capital firms that are investing or have an interest in the food and ingredients market. So that was the biggest thing that we did. And it was a case of then, okay, let's keep this as our focus. Let's then increase the level of marketing activity that we're doing. Let's raise the standards that we have in the business in terms of at what level we're marketing to. So most of the majority of marketing that we do at the moment is to C-suite, it's to board level, and whether that's into portfolio companies, investors, or our traditional market, all of our marketing is to C-suite. So the other thing that we did, we totally rewrote all of the ebooks that we had and upgraded those to look a lot better than the Mike's produced them on a PowerPoint and saved them as a PDF. So we increased the quality of that. We increased the quantity of our marketing activity. We increased the quantity of our direct mail. We increased the quantity of chat. Everything, across every metrics, we raised our standards.
Awesome.
And I think the other thing that's we also looking at the potential volume of business that this was going to generate. I built out our bank of external researchers, freelance researchers. That was a godsend having done that. So yeah, those were the main things that we did. Yeah.
It's interesting listening to you, Mike, and anybody listen to you, and anybody that's been here for any time, you've heard other people talk. One of the things that you pick up consciously, maybe unconsciously, is this: that some people talk and they talk with this absolute certainty and clarity. And there's a saying, isn't there? It goes something like this: we can rarely, if ever, outperform our own identity. And the point I'm making here is whatever your identity is what you're going to perform to. So Mike then shared, I thought was a real giveaway piece of language there. He talks about raising his standards because he was here and he made a conscious decision. No, that's not who I am. My identity is to operate at this level. I just want to ask you a bit about that, Mike, and be interesting to get some feedback from the other guys. Is that what did you do about your identity? If you go back to 4 years ago, what your identity was then, and now here you are. In fact, here's one example. What was the percentage that you were asking for 4 years ago when you were talking to a hiring manager when you were working on contingent?
It's 25%.
Is what you were asking for 4 years ago
and
on contingency?
Yeah, and was getting 20, sometimes 25, but
yeah. See, and just be, I want everybody to be conscious of that, because we've all got that level. There's a level that all of you here, you say, I won't go below that level. And all it is, that's below your standards. See, 4 years ago, Mike wouldn't go below 20%. There's people here that when they joined us, they were doing stuff at 4 and 5%. And now they say, that isn't who I am. So what was it about? Yeah, just share us a bit about that conscious decision where you raise your standards and the identity. And after you've answered this, I'll come to you next then, Tom.
I think one of the things I looked at was, as I was going through my sort of year-end planning, was to say, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to build. And if I look, a lot of the stuff that we did last year, we tried and tested, it didn't work. And we've refined it, and we've tweaked it, and we've refined it, and we've tweaked it. So as I'm doing my year-end planning, it's okay, if this is what I want to build as a business, who do I have to become? Who you want to build a £10 million business. How does a £10 million business owner act? What does a £10 million biller or a £10 million business CEO, what are their thoughts? What are their beliefs? What is their underlying, how do they communicate? How do they dress? How do they act? How do they communicate with people on a level where I'm having a conversation with the CEO of a business, as far as I'm concerned, and this, I don't want this to sound arrogant, as far as I'm concerned, I'm CEO of my business. So when I'm having the conversation with a CEO or a board member of a multinational corporation, I'm at the same level as him. And that comes, I believe, when you're having that conversation on a peer-to-peer level, you're talking to somebody on a level, you're not being subservient to that individual. And if you are, they will take advantage of that. Maybe not consciously, but I believe they will. So I had to develop and almost change my identity, change my mindset. And we talked about this and some of the things in terms of, affirmations and writing things down, writing your goals down, reviewing those, and becoming that person before you become that, before you are that person, if that makes sense. And there's a lot of work that I do on a daily basis that reinforces my belief of who I am. And I think that comes across in when I'm having conversations with people.
That's right. And this whole thing, and just to touch on fees, is that the fee that you charge, or you accept rather, is just a reflection of your own self-worth. And that's why some guys will charge 5% and others will say, I wouldn't cross the road for that. And some guys will say, I won't do anything for less than 28%. That's all personal, and there's no logic behind that. That's the emotional decision that you're making about your own personal self-worth. But that comes then to your identity. I'm worth more than 5%. I'm worth more than 33%. But that's a very personal thing that you have to work on your own personal identity. Thanks for that, Mike. Tom, sorry, Mike, go on.
No, I think you've also, you set yourself some standards. My fee is 33%, standard fee is 33%. And I will come down to no less than 25, but there's got to be a reason that I want to do that. But you've got to be prepared to draw that line in the sand. And it was on one of the calls last year. I put a proposal to a client of 33%. They came back to me and said, we've had somebody else who said they'll do it for 18. Is there any room for maneuver on your fees? I said, no, sorry. And I've written that off. He came back to me a week later and said, we'd like to work with you. And the reason they wanted to work with me, because the other recruiter, was Michael Page in Germany, based in Germany. What they didn't have was the network of people in the market that I had and access to the people who weren't on LinkedIn that I had. And that's where they came back to me.
Great example, Mike. Thank you. Thomas,
Mike,
sorry.
Mike, there's a lot of what you're saying as to where your journey started 4 years ago, working at 25% on contingency, to where you go now is resonating. That's near enough exactly where we are at the moment. In relation to that, can you describe a little bit the journey? Because it can be very painful, those conversations, I can imagine. And what's the benefit for you now of, like, because I'm trying to do, I sent Terry a message earlier on, a little bit of a hearts and minds on this, but like, how would I explain the benefits of that to the other stakeholders in the company of trying to go down on this journey? Because I don't have buy-in on from all the parties on this. So it's just really like, what were the key stages on that for you? And how does, like, when you look back now at your 25% contingency business and your business now, which is, let's say, on average 30% retained, what's the difference on the day-to-day? What's it like running one and working on one, trying to fill roles in one compared to what it is today that you're doing?
Just before you answered, Mike, just very quickly, I want to come to a few more people. Michelle, if I can come to you after Mike, and also if I can come to you, Tom Yeager as well afterwards. Yeah, so Michelle, Tom afterwards, and then back to you, Drew.
I think one of the main advantages of working on a retained basis is I know that I can, to a certain extent, predict what my next 3 months cash flow is going to be. Because I know I'm going to shortlist some roles this month. I know there's going to be offers made this month. I know some roles I'll shortlist in February. I know offers are going to be made in March. So that gives me the ability to work. Again, there's the confidence that I've got some cash flow. If I don't do anything else, if I don't pick any business up now, I've got cash flow for the next 3 to 4 months. I think the other advantage is if you're working on a contingency role, then we were talking about it earlier on this week. If you're working on 10 contingency roles with the view you're going to fill one of those, you're giving 10% of your time to each one of those roles. If you're working on one role that's retained and you know you're going to get paid for it, you can give 100% of your effort on that one role, which means that likelihood of you delivering that is going to be significantly enhanced, which means you're going to do a better job for your clients. You're going to deliver a better result for your clients. And if you deliver a good result from your clients, the benefits from that are repeat business testimonials, which is going to open up a lot more doors for you.
Does that answer your question, Tom?
Yeah, it does. Thanks for that, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Michelle, let's get your thoughts, feedback, and if you've got any questions for Mike.
Michelle.
Hey.
Woman or man?
Oh, sorry. Michelle answer. Sorry, apologies. Yeah.
Hi. So yeah, just to talk about Mike, but I mean, yeah, I think I would ask the question that I would ask Mike is when you said you needed to make the decision, but then fundamentally, other than what does that person look like, obviously your activities and actions must have changed also. Can you tell us anything about that as well?
You mean my marketing activities must have changed?
Yeah. Did those, because you said you just the best thing you did was made the conscious decision, and then obviously you looked in your mind about what that person, how they were and what they acted and behaved, but then the actual elements and the actions, I guess, that go with that, did they change fundamentally, or was it just about the volume?
I think we became far more targeted in terms of who we were marketing to. Because I think one of the challenges we'd had previously was our marketing was to anybody that we were connected to on LinkedIn in our sector. The challenges with that is you end up speaking to a lot of people who are potential candidates, who are hiring managers, but they might not be decision makers. Because you can spend some time speaking with the director of X, Y, and Z about a particular role, and you say, oh, yeah, well, you need to speak to HR. And so we segmented the data, and I think that really has made a huge difference, just in terms of who we're targeting, across the 3 pillars that we're working. At what level do we want to be operating at? and continuing to refine and look at that. So that would be the main thing. And then, just let's say, and then yes, increasing activity.
Okay, thank you. And just in terms of observation, you know, I mean, obviously it's hugely inspirational, the fact that you can sort of turn over, not just, well, you did it in November, but obviously in September you almost did it as well. So there's two years revenue in a quarter or 3 months really, and that's not even looking at the rest of the year, is it? So yeah, well done, and thank you for sharing.
Thanks, Michelle. Tom Yeager. Well, I can't see you now, buddy. Yes, I can.
Hi, Rob.
Hi.
Yeah, I had a question mark. So, and you say you've been working on the business for what, four and a half years now?
Yeah.
So, if I just wondered, having implemented all the things you've done over the past 4.5 years, if you could go back in time to the start, is there anything that you would have done differently, or anything you've learned more recently that you would like to put in place from the start?
I think it's the way we work has evolved and changed. The market has changed. If I could go back 4 years, I'd have done exactly 4 years ago what I did now. But I think I didn't have I didn't have the knowledge of the industry 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, I can have a conversation with somebody about the industry and about the challenges and what's happening and product development, because this is the world in which I now live, whereas 4 years ago I didn't. So, and again, one of the other things that I've done from first making that decision is immersing myself into the industry. So reading the newsletters, monitoring the developments in the market, just keeping abreast of what's going to happen. And I don't think until I had that industry insight, I could have done some of the things that we're doing now. Because now if I speak to the CEO of a company or the managing partner of a private equity firm, I've got the credibility, because I can evidence what we've done in the past. I can talk about what's going on in the industry. Whereas at the beginning, I didn't have that. So I think for me, that's also been a really important thing to do.
Does that help, Tom?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and I guess we're recruiting similar sectors as well. So I know you niche down more on category and focus more on the food ingredients, whereas I recruit across food, but niche down on the types of roles I recruit for as well. So yeah, definitely agree with that as well.
Good.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Mike.
So Mike, just to move away from this, like one of the things that I think impressed me most about this transformation, or the thing that I think other people should be impressed by, I think it's easy to increase revenue by bringing people into your team, having more consultants. Increasing revenue is great, but it's easy to do, or easier to do. What I think has been most impressive, I think on the call at the back end of last year, you'd mentioned how much you'd improved your profits by, I think you said 900% or thereabouts. Is that right?
Yeah.
So that's obviously amazing, right? So there's no one who wouldn't want to do that. So I wanted to ask you a few questions about, what changes did you make to how you manage your finances that impacted your profit?
I think it's very easy when you start earning money to spend it. And I know that that's the sort of individual that I am. I see all this money in the bank. I think, I'll go and buy this. I'll go and buy this. No, I'll go and buy that. I mean, the other side is, I think if you're running your own business and things are going well, I think you also need to reward yourself. I mean, one of the reasons that we got through 2020 was we'd implemented the profit first system. And and really throughout this year, we've continued to do that. And that's become really, from a financial point of view, a core pillar to what we do financially. And again, yes, you're generating revenue, but I think when you're generating revenue, what you've also got to do is control costs. I went through an exercise at the beginning of when we first went into lockdown, is looking at every cost in the business. What am I paying for? And I found things in there: subscriptions to newsletters, subscriptions to software, and that I wasn't using. So I think it's also, and every quarter with my bookkeeper, we do a quarterly review of what are the costs in the business. So where I'm earning this money, where is it going out? If I'm going to increase, we've increased our marketing spend quite significantly. And I've done that without batting an eyelid because I know what we're doing works. The same breath, I've thought of, okay, if I'm going to increase my marketing spend, what else can I cut out of the business that we don't need? And so we've just done it at the end of January in terms of looking at what needs to happen in the business. What look at our month-on-month bank accounts and say, what's this for? What's this for? What's this? Do we need this? And so control of costs and really limit non-income generating expenditure. Now, I don't mind increasing my marketing spend because I know that's going to generate me income. But I don't want to increase other expenditure that's not income generating. And, you ask yourself the question, is spending this going to take me closer to or further away from my end goal?
Awesome.
And the other thing, managing the day-to-day finances, I don't have anything to do with it. I have a bookkeeper who I pay, I think, £100 a month to, who does my payroll. She does my VAT. She prepares my monthly management accounts. She prepares all the year-end accounts to trial balance, so it reduces significantly my accountancy fees. She now is managing my credit control. And most people will pay you within 30 days. That's one of the terms of our business. She manages the credit control, so I don't get involved with the day-to-day finances. I know what I've got in the bank, but I think it's important to even if you're not, just at the beginning of this journey, you need to be looking at, okay, how do I structure my finances? So, I've got a tax bill due in May of this year. I've got the money in a bank account marked tax, that when that comes along, I don't have an issue being able to pay that. If I go back 4 years ago, every time I got a tax bill, it was like, you made this profit, well, where's that gone to? Yeah. And with the profit first system is you can plan ahead for that. So when you do get a tax bill, you don't have to spread the cost over 6 months and get the inland revenue penalising you because you're late paying it.
Yeah. Again, just for anyone listening, if you're interested in the Profit First system, which you all should be, there's a training in the members area called the Profit First Playbook. I'd strongly recommend going and watching that and implementing what Mike's implemented. There's also a book on it too, Profit First. But yeah, the playbook goes into in terms of recruitment specific. I'd definitely check that out. Terry, anything you'd add to that? You want to go off mute?
If you turn your mic on.
Yeah, sadly, we speak to a lot of recruiters when they share their numbers when you think they're doing okay, and they're in Mike's situation where the tax bill comes and they're like, shoot, I haven't got the money for it. And it's just about managing money. Not all the money that you raise and invoice is your money, as we all know as business owners, but sometimes business owners can forget that. So yeah, I really would recommend that if you haven't done it, to go into the members area and do the training and also get the book that is available in order as well. In terms of managing your finances, there is no point. We've got Tom here, who's an accountant, would tell you, there's no point generating income and then not having any money. It's absolutely waste of frigging time, and it can be avoided. Back to you, Drew.
Yeah. So again, another question I want to ask, again, slightly linked to the finances, but it's more about your sales and decisions you made about your fee, your payment terms you just mentioned there as well. Again, can you tell us a bit about that? Like why, in terms of not necessarily for the last 12 months, but what changes have you made to the way your sales process and your fee and your payment terms, what changes have you made there that has impacted sort of the results that you've been able to get?
I think one of the things that underpins being able to, my standard fee is 33%. and there's a £2,000 admin fee in addition to that, and I've had clients that have paid that, is the positioning. And you know, if you're positioning yourself as a leader in your sector, as an expert in your sector, then you have more chance of being able to charge fees at that sort of level. And it's because, in terms of the sales process, because of the people that we're dealing with at the level that we're dealing with, there is almost an expectation that you're going to work, you will work on a retained basis. You know, if you know, Tesco's a while back were recruiting for a new CFO, do you think they'd be paying somebody 15% on a contingency basis? No, they'd be paying probably Corn Ferry or Hydrogen Struggles 35% plus. And again, the positioning of me is, you know, we are a retained search firm. We don't do anything else. We're retained a search firm. That is the positioning. That is my belief, and that belief then carries across to the conversations that you're having with clients. And you're talking to the CEO of a business, and you say, "Yeah, you want us to build your board. Those roles are critical to your business. Without the correct people in place, you're not going to get your next round of funding. You're not going to achieve your revenue targets. You're not going to grow your business, and we can help you with that." Then it's you. And again, the way I'm closing sales, it's almost assumptive. You want us to help you? Okay, this is how we work. This is how much it's going to cost. This is how it works. What do we need to do to get started? And it's having that. You need to have belief in your ability to deliver to be able to do that. Is Drew frozen? And Terry's on mute.
Yeah, it looks like he has frozen. So apologies for that. So I'm going to quickly just go around to a few people. Can I come to you, Michelle in South Africa, then Andy, and Laura.
Yeah, hi, Mike, Terry, everyone. Mike, I just had a question. I find it very interesting, but it seems like you have 36 hours in a day. How do you manage, and what parts of your business do you outsource? Because you're here every meeting. We're in a small team, and we're already feeling like overwhelmed almost a bit with all the things we're doing, and it seems like you're doing double just by yourself. So how do you manage that? What do you outsource?
I think, I mean, a couple of things. One, in terms of time management, as we talked about before, there's, you know, I block my time. And I have to be really disciplined with that, because if I don't, things won't just get done. You know, when I first started working with Terry and Drew, for the first 6 months, I was doing every single thing myself. And for me, that was absolutely critical, because if I was going to outsource something, I needed to know how that process would work. So I did a LinkedIn process. I did the 10 before 10s. I sent out all the emails. I was doing every single thing myself. But once I got that understanding, it was a case of, okay, what can I outsource to somebody else where I'm not going to compromise the quality of what I'm doing? And that process has just evolved over the years. So I outsource as much as I possibly can at the moment. And what that does is it then frees my time. You know, I referred to it before. I had a conversation with Drew 2 years ago, probably a bit longer than that, about what is the most important role that I do in my business. And at the time, Drew said to me, and I said to Drew, it's the 10 before 10. And Drew said, no, you're wrong. And I said, no, it's the 10 before 10. It's the most important thing that I do in my business. And he said, well, you can outsource that. I said, no, I can't outsource my 10 before 10. He said, you can. And we agreed to disagree at the time. I hate to say that he's right, because my most important thing that I do in my business is be on a call, meeting with a decision maker that is pre-qualified, and to get that, somebody else is doing that, having those initial phone calls. So, and again, it's I guess in anyone's business, okay, and what your most important role in your business is today could be very different to what it is in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months time. But ask yourself, what is the most important role you do in your business? That's what you need to be doing most of. Yep. And then outsource the other bits and pieces. But don't outsource the other bits and pieces. Do you know what those other bits and pieces are? And you have a process that you've done that is tried and tested. You know, if I do this, this, and this, it works. Not just once, but hundreds of times. And when you've got that, then you can say to somebody else, I want you to do this. I want you to do my LinkedIn connections. I want you to send my LinkedIn chat. But you can't do that until you know what you're doing. Is that helpful, Michelle? Yeah.
Yeah, it is actually. Yeah, and we are already a bit in the process of outsourcing some stuff, but yeah, no, definitely helpful.
There's a tremendous book which I'd recommend to everybody. It's called Life Leverage by a guy called Rob Moore, where he specifically talks about outsourcing and in a lot more detail than we've got time to go into here. But it's a really good read. It's available on audio as well.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks, Mike.
Okay.
Terry, you're on mute again.
Andy, thanks, Michelle.
Yeah, thanks, and hi, Mike. Thanks again for your perfect role model for Terry's program, aren't you? Really are. But it's great. I think learned so much, and also we put there about niche market and narrowing down that market to be as much as possible and specialize in that is something that I've made a big change on this week as well. Just to do that, I think it's a key thing to do. Is if you become like that market is narrow or a niche to that, become an expert in that market, and then you become like the go-to person for that market, which you probably are with your clients and a lot of the clients. What you do, and I think that's great advice. But it's always good to hear you speak, Mike. Always.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Laura.
Thank you. Yeah, and echo exactly what Andy just said. Actually, it's good. It's always good to hear, especially just starting out. And I suppose one thing that struck me was that you changed discipline effectively and found a new niche to an extent, or you had to, or you wanted to. I mean, do you ever think about doing that again?
What, changing my niche again?
Yeah.
No.
No, not all that you know. Done.
I am, and again, choosing that niche was, I don't know why at the time. I've done some work there. I'd like some of the customers that we work with. I absolutely love the industry. I mean, there is so much happening. There is so much innovation happening in the industry at the moment. The industry is changing, evolving, and those changes and developments are driving out the need for staff. There's huge amounts of money coming out of private equity into the food sector. I don't think I ever would. And I've got I've got some great relationships with people that I've built as a result of that. There's a client that we've been working with based in Geneva. He's got a ski chalet in the French Alps. He said, let me know if you want to borrow that. It's yours. And those relationships, I think, you build over a period of time become more, that they become closer and closer, and you get that intimacy with somebody that then allows you to really leverage your business. So what I might consider doing is possibly niching down a little further. But at the moment, I don't have the need to do that. But I wouldn't change now. No, I love it, to me.
Excellent. Thanks, Laura. Mike, thank you ever so much for that. And you shared your wins, you've shared stuff about your mindset, and you know, and again, anybody that knows this, one thing that we believe is that you also learn from your lessons, or you learn from your mistakes. And I'd be really interested to hear what are the things that you did that you kind of look back and go, oh, can't believe I did that, or your big lessons, or biggest mistakes over the 4 years.
I think one of the biggest mistakes, if I go back to when we first started working together, was trying to do everything myself. I think very early, probably 3-4 months after we started working together, we picked up 2 roles. Great, retain full fee. And I just threw myself into those for 3 months, and everything else stopped. Although I can't do my 10 before 10. Well, I can't do my LinkedIn invitations. I've got to deliver on these roles. So I guess the single biggest lesson is, whatever you do not take your eye off the ball in terms of marketing and business development. Because what happened then, I delivered the roles, and it's okay, what's next? Shit. I better start doing some marketing now. And I think that's, if I look at the last 12 months, one of the things, as I mentioned earlier, I've got a freelance consultant. I've just given him another project to work today. This will be his 3rd project. He's delivered 2 projects, 2 assignments, end to end, dealt with the interviews, written up the interview notes, arranged the interviews with the clients, done all the feedback and all the other bits and pieces you've got to do. And I haven't touched those roles.
And that's a really interesting point now, because I'll come back to your lessons and mistakes. But just on that, in terms of outsourcing, so those 2 assignments, what were they worth to you? And your part in it was that you just won the business. And what did you actually then end up putting in your literally in your back pocket?
There were 2 assignments that were worth, in round fees, they're going to be about £30,000 each.
30,000 each, so that's 60,000. And how much of that 60,000 did you actually keep and go into your business? Bearing in mind, for everybody else, he didn't do anything on these. He won the business. He then outsourced it for somebody else to deliver.
80% of that.
80%. But the key to that is, if you're thinking, I want some of that, is doing the marketing till you get to that position. So you've got the business. And we constantly talk about what's important is winning the business, is engaging with a hiring manager, not with the candidate, because then you can do that. You could have a business model where all you do is win the business and get somebody else to deliver. And to be fair, Mike's got somebody that he trusts and has known for a number of years, and he might knows they're going to deliver it. So you need to have that kind of team in place. But just think about that. All Mike's done is won the business. You get 60,000. 80% of that is Mike's. I think there's a lesson there for all of us.
And I think the spin off that, what it's allowed me to do is to continue to have more conversations with people and win more business.
Yes,
rather than getting involved in the delivery side of it. And it's what Drew was saying earlier, the delivery side of it, I haven't fallen out of love with, but it's not what I really enjoy.
Yeah. So you got literally, what's that, 60,000, 48,000 for winning the business, but you did nothing else, and that consultant delivered it and everything else. Excellent. So you kind of got that you can't do everything. So the lesson there was to outsource. What are the mistakes or things you look back and think, oh, bloody hell, I can't believe I did that?
I think there was an initial reluctance to outsource stuff because there's a cost associated with it. You outsource something, you're paying somebody else to do something. Well, why pay somebody else to do something when I can do it myself? And my view on that has changed significantly. If I can pay somebody $6 an hour, $20 an hour, $50 an hour to do something else, it gets to a point where I'm saying, okay, is my time worth more to me or worth more to the business than whether it's $50 an hour, $10 an hour, $100 an hour? Is my time worth more to the business than that? If the answer is yes, then it's worth outsourcing. You can get somebody in India to manage your LinkedIn process. Once you've nailed it and you know what you're doing, for probably $10 US an hour. Is your time worth more than $10 an hour? if it's not, well, you probably shouldn't be running your own business. To suggest seriously it is. And then as your business grows, your revenues increase, you ask that question again. And, you know, I outsource anything that I can where I feel me doing it would be not good value to the business.
It's interesting because Michelle in South Africa asked that question earlier about, you know, where do you find the time? And that's your philosophy. If somebody else can do this more cost effectively, I'm then going to outsource it. Excellent. Any other lessons? Anything that you'd want to share with the group as we come to the end now? As you just go, look, here's something that I did that upon reflection wasn't the best idea, though it seemed a good idea at the time, and we've all done that.
Okay, not so much a mistake, but one of the things that we've started to do, we've now done, is trying to standardize as much as possible in the business. So we have a standardized interview template. So when this other guy Jeremy is doing interviews for me, he's got an interview template with series of questions on that I want him to interview the candidate. Interview the candidates, and these are questions I want you to ask. And this is a document, almost a template that you just fill in. You fill it in, it's proofread, it's then sent to the client. So it's trying to standardize interview templates. When we take on an assignment, we put together a presentation, a document that goes out to candidates on behalf of the client. That's now standardized. And so it's trying to say, okay, it's almost developed this cookie cutter process that if we can standardize every interview template, what it means is then the next project that we've got on, we might have to alter a couple of the questions, but the template's already made. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel anytime. So it's standardizing as much as we can across the business. So that was something that's saved us a lot of time. And the other thing that we did on that was once we standardized those templates, to say, how can I then reduce the amount of time I spend interviewing candidates? And typically, a lot of the questions that we ask are quite detailed in terms of backgrounds of the individuals. Rather than having that conversation with them over Zoom, I send the candidate the questions. Here are 3 key questions I need you to answer as part of this process. And they send you the answers back. And then and then you discuss those answers with them. So that saves you a lot of time. It's cutting down the amount of interviewing time that you spend interviewing candidates. So it's looking at wherever you can, leveraging your time to get other people to do things.
Yeah, really good point there. I think, everybody can learn from that. And I remember, it must be about 18 months ago when you were snowed under with interviews. Is one of the things that you implemented in business, but standardization. And again, going back to that situation where you generated £48,000, you won the business, but because everything was standardized, that's one of the reasons you can do that. You can then say to Jeremy, here's the questions I need you to ask, get the candidates to answer these questions, you type it up, and that's the report then that's going to the hiring manager. And, just to emphasize for those that are just coming in, maybe that haven't done retained before, that's what the hiring manager is paying for. They're paying for that additional work. They're paying for those interview reports. They're paying for the candidate population. So if you can make that as easy as possible for you to do, again, it's a no-brainer. Excellent. Thank you very, very much for that, Mike. I really do appreciate you sharing all that there. I just want to, one of the things that we constantly talk about is about modeling success. You've heard today what one person's doing to get to where they are now, how they've moved from what they invoiced in the month, what they invoiced in the year, they can do in the month. He shared with you, give you a template how to increase profits by 900%. But the key to all this is you taking action. Everybody that joins the program says, "Yeah, I'm really keen to get this done," but it's not taking the action steps once in a while. It's taking them on a consistent basis. And the question I'd have to ask you is, are you doing just that? Mike shared some things with you, so I want to repeat. It's not the action steps that you do once in a while that makes you successful. It's the action steps that you do consistently. So a question to answer to yourself, are you taking consistent action on a daily basis? If anybody's got any questions, please fire away. And while I'm doing that, just to remind you that come and join us tomorrow. Sorry, I didn't get around to everybody. In fact, yeah, sorry to get around to everybody, but yeah, please come join us tomorrow and I'll get around to you. So those guys I didn't get around to today, I'll get around to you tomorrow, I promise you that. Thank you for joining us today. Remind you to join us tomorrow at 1500. Mike, again, thank you very much indeed. Until next time, folks, take care, take action, and be relentless. Cheers, folks.
Nice.
Thanks a lot, Mike.